that first win. It's an indescribable feeling. It's like a cool summer breeze from an air conditioner on full blast, or that feeling of biting into a crisp apple and then taking it out of your mouth and choosing a powdered donut instead. It's a truly amazing experience, but the road to get there, it is long and arduous to say the least. So if we're trying to win a crown in Fall Guys, where do we even start? Well, it always begins with the costume. That sets the mood for the entire performance. But it's not just about the costume, and it's also not just about luck. Luck definitely plays a ginormous part of it, but there is strategy that you can employ to improve your odds. For the seesaw level, for instance, you always want to be out front. But when you don't have that luxury, it's all about predicting not where the seesaw themselves are going, but where everybody else is going, so you can counterbalance and adjust as necessary. For the perfect match game, which I assume is everyone's favorite, you want to figure out which tiles are where. Sure, it starts off with 2 and then goes to 4 and then goes to 6 or maybe 8, I don't even know. But when you're unsure, just follow the crowd, but not the crowd that's running around aimlessly, the crowd that runs confidently to one square and sticks there. Freezy Peak is one of those levels that can be a lot of fun because, at least for me, I don't usually run the risk of falling out of the sky. That doesn't mean it never happens. But it also doesn't mean that there's never happy accidents either. But if you're careful, like going one step at a time in the boxing glove ramp area, you can come away without a scratch. A lot of the survival levels are really just too random to pin down. On the snowball survival level, it's ideal to have both snowballs in your view at all times, but that's not always possible. So one alternative is to try running behind the snowball instead of just avoiding it in front. It's sort of using the mentality of lightning never strikes twice in the same spot, which is technically not true and a dangerous practice, just so you know. A lot of the races funnel everyone into one common area, and there's really not a ton you can do about it, other than eat a whole lot of garlic. But there are still strategies to employ on different parts. For example, right here you would want to run to the far outside where the fan can't touch you. SKYLINE's Tumble was one of the more difficult levels for me until I figured out something that made it a lot easier. I never had too much trouble getting all the way to the end, but once I got to the pinball section, I struggled. But the technique I found actually helped me out quite a bit. You want to jump and stop in a very specific spot on the paddle, and that's right here. And if you can, getting a little momentum walking towards the middle, you can all but guarantee that you're going to make it to the other side and up one level. One of the best things about hitting your stride and finishing a race early is that you get to watch other people have a hard time instead of just watching yourself have a hard time. That makes for a much more enjoyable viewing experience. You can also learn a few things, see what techniques other people use. Although if you finished in front of them, their techniques are probably not as good as yours. The first time I played Button Bashers, I didn't even realize that there was another player. That's because the only thing I was focused on was that yellow button. If you get really lucky and you just keep hitting all the buttons and they're always close to you, it's a fantastic game. But if you're facing an opponent in Button Bashers who's really exceptional, the one thing you don't want to do is always follow them. You want to take control yourself, because when they're off running towards that button and you know that they're way closer than you are, that's your opportunity to scan the environment and figure out the fastest way to the next button. Also, jumping and diving comes in quite handy here, especially underneath the fans. This is just one of those levels where you need to be aggressive and show no mercy and take no prisoners, like I'm doing right here. On most of these rolling levels, the biggest problem that people have is not planning an appropriate path. The big pieces are moving at a pretty predictable pace, so you want to make sure you're jumping where they're going to be and not where they are. Otherwise, it's smoothies for breakfast, and nothing for dinner because you're dead. These little cylinders pop up quite a bit where you have to jump on sort of a narrow area. What I found is helpful is overcompensating, jumping a little bit further than you think you need to, because if you jump too short, it's never going to work out. And things will often not work out in your favor. Quite a lot. Just a significant portion of the time is spent not going your way, not working in your favor. It's fine. You'll be fine. Just tell yourself you'll be fine, and eventually you might believe it. Fruit Shoot is one of those levels that I dread, mostly because I don't like dying. But just make sure you're not giving up even if you do fall off, because you never know, other people could be struggling even more than you. On these pink spiky log rolling things, I found that if you just make it past that first spike really close to you, you don't have to do too much bobbing and weaving if you just move forward as fast as possible. And once you reach the ramps at the end, don't go after the ones that are lowering, go after the ones that are about to reach their peak, because by the time you get there, they're gonna be lowering right to that perfect spot. On this one, there's a very advanced method where you're able to jump on top of the side panels as they're moving, but as of yet, I have not been able to replicate this myself. When it comes to DoorDash, there's plenty of luck that goes into it, but really you want to make sure you're closer to the center, because as soon as you see a door open up all the way on the other side, you're going to be way too far away to actually reach it in time before the entire rest of the crowd has made it through. And that can take you from first place to last place real quick. It's not a great lesson to teach your kids, but on Wall Guys, if you're being helpful, you're probably not gonna win. Tiptoe has a similar feel because nobody wants to be the nice one and make that sacrifice step just so that everybody else can find out where the next place to go is. My advice would be to stick in the middle of that cluster so that when things do move along, you won't be all the way at the back. A lot of the Season 5 levels have many different alternate routes that you can take. On TREETOP Tumble especially, if you go up or down, it's like a completely different level. What you're going to want to do is play it a few times and see if you like the lower level or the upper level better. Because in my experience, you can do really well no matter which route you take. Just remember, at the very end, you have to jump and dive, otherwise you might not make that gap. For the PECWIN pool party, if you ever eventually find a PECWIN yourself and can hold it for more than 1 second, always try to get onto the upper area, because everybody else is going to be down on the bottom still trying to find a PECWIN, and you're going to be up on top just relaxing, kicking back with a strawberry melon Snapple. And in Bubble Trouble, which is a lot of fun to say, it constantly moves around to specific areas. And this means everybody's going to be swarming to where they are, but most people aren't predicting where they're going to go next. So instead, when about half of the bubbles have disappeared, look around for where the next area is going to be so you can be one of the first few people to make it to that new spot. That's where you're going to get all the bubbles you could ever eat. I assume that's what they're doing with the bubbles. For team games, just remember, it's not your fault if you lose, which will happen a lot. And also, if you can manage it, don't be on the yellow team. Yellow team always loses. And I mean always. Every single time. Just don't be on the yellow team. If you play Fall Guys enough, you're gonna find those levels that are just your Achilles heel. Slime Scraper, for me, has been that level, where I just have the hardest time surviving. I don't know what it is, and it's not just because it's a long level, because I often fail on the first couple obstacles. But if you play it enough, you'll start to see what you've been doing wrong, and you'll figure out that there are a couple shortcuts that you may not have noticed before. In a nutshell, don't hate the level just because you're not great at it. Because one day, if you put in the work, who knows? You could start to be really, really good at it, and it could become your favorite level. But all of this rambling hasn't really been about winning, has it? It's just been about maintaining. So how do you win the big show? It really comes down to one thing, and that is, you have to fail. And when I say fail, I don't mean once or twice. I mean, you're gonna have to fail so many times that you will, on multiple occasions, want to delete the game from your hard drive. You will want to never try again, and you will want to look up the address of the developers and send them a dead pigeon. Do not do these things. The failure is necessary. It's that final obstacle that you'll need to overcome. You'll have to fail, you'll have to try again, and you'll have to fail again. And it'll get to the point where you'll feel like it's just not possible, at least not for you. But trust me when I say, anybody can do it. If you've made it to the final, you can win. But really, the way to win, to truly win at Fall Guys, is to get to a point where that final crown is no longer the only thing that matters. Anytime that you have a great level, anytime there's a lucky save at the last second, if those moments can keep you happy, oh, you have already won Fall Guys. Because really, winning at the very end doesn't make you any better than anyone else. It's just about enjoying yourself, having a laugh, throwing some Cheetos at the screen, and getting a few stories to tell. That's when you really win at Fall Guys. And also actually winning is pretty cool too.